So in these series, I'm going to talk about some of the catastrophic mistakes that landlords or so-called property investors have made, and either I've come across by coaching them because they've made a mistake and they wanted to kind of try and find ways to remedy it, or things that I've heard along the way that I've kind of I want to share, because if we understand the mistakes that people make, hopefully you guys won't make the same mistakes and try to avoid really quite financially crippling challenges that people can have. So in this case, I own a flat and I've owned it in London for a while now. So that the upstairs guy bought the flat above about 4 years ago, and it came for auction, and I was really interested because I wanted to buy the whole thing. But when it went to auction, that property is a 2-bed flat, and the market price at that time was around 350,000 3-4 years ago, and he paid, the person who bought it paid 220,000 for it, which on the face of it, it's amazing, because you know, something is 350, you pay 220 for it, with a bit of cost, maybe 220, 230, let's say, probably a bit more than that, but let's assume it's, well, they said to me it was 220. We'll make the assumption that it's including stamp duty and legals, which I don't think it is, but let's go with that. So technically it's a great purchase. Now, the naivety of the investor here is not understanding the process of leasehold, freehold, lease, and the number of years on the lease. Had he probably realized or knew about this, he would not have either bid that high for it or not bought it at all. So fast forward 3 years down the line, so he bought the place 220, and the daughter was telling me they spent probably 40-50 grand to do it up. So we're now at 260,000 plus. So on entry, the person's bought 260,000. Now 3 years down the line, they're trying to get a mortgage. He's bought it cash. They're trying to get a mortgage, and they've been struggling for the last 3 years to get a mortgage. Why? Because a simple factor is that the property has a lease. And the number of years on the lease is only 7 years. Now, he's made some colossal mistakes already. He did not check the lease number of years. Now, you could argue that the solicitor would have told him, probably he ignored it. His daughter's a solicitor, and she told me that she told him, and she was ignored as well. So firstly, they bought a property way too high, because at 7 years left on your lease, well, now 4 years, you're going to get absolutely hammered by marriage values to get this extension on the lease. So that's the first thing. The second thing is they bought the property without serving a notice prior to selling it, prior to buying it. They did not get the Section 42 notice served, which means that they had to wait at least 2 years before they can ask for a lease extension in the normal routinized way. You can actually, of course, approach the freeholder, but then they have the right to say no. They have the right to whack the price up massively and not follow what the guidelines say about how much a lease extension should work out and marriage values should work out. So just to summarize, so 220 purchase, 40 to 50k spend, so that's 260, 270. So we'll use a lower figure of 260. Then now they've just approached me to agree to say yes, I'm happy for that to proceed, to buy the freehold off the freeholder. To buy that freehold, they have to pay, or to extend their lease also, they have to pay. So to extend the lease, pure and simple, they have to pay to the freeholder 280,000 on top of what they've already spent. Or if they bought the freehold, they are quoting 260,000 to buy the freehold. And of course, if they buy the freehold, I will be 50% shareholder of the freehold. They'll be 50%, and then they, we'll agree to give them a lease extension of say 999 years or whatever. Both will benefit, and we will take control of the actual block. Now the challenge is, think about the numbers now. 260 he bought and spent to get the flat up and ready. He had to wait 2 years, so that's why now he's having to try to buy it. His lease years is now down to 7 years, because I think it would have been 9 years before, and then now 7 because he's had to wait the 2 years. And he's having to spend another 260,000 or 280 if he didn't buy the freehold. So let's say 260,000. So that's 260 plus 260. That's 520,000 for a 2-bed flat in London. And my flat downstairs with a garden, with a drive that fits 2 cars, maisonette, 2-bed flat with its own garden directly at the back. it's valued at around 375, and let's assume, and I think it's less, let's assume it's now 400, because the last time I had the value was 375. Let's assume mine is 400. That flat cannot be more than 400. Let's assume it's 400, but it can't be. It will be about 375. So the person now has forked out, or would have forked out, £520,000 in cash, because you're not going to get a mortgage on those lease extension either. They'll have to borrow it somewhere, friends, family, loans, or whatever. 520, and then the actual place will be 375. Let's say 400 to keep the math simple. So he would have lost 120, but realistically 145. £145,000 he would have actually lost. So he's bought something, overpaid for it, spent money to try and get the lease extension sorted out for 2 years. So paying, if he had the cash, fine, but if he didn't have the cash and he borrowed it from friends and family, paying on that loan, as well as spending too much money to refurbish the property. And now he's stuck having to spend even more money and lose out something around £145,000. And that's all in the space of about 2.5 years. I mean, can you afford to lose £145,000? The alternative is to wait until the lease runs down in 4 years' time and lose £260,000, which is the cost of purchase, cost of development, and the freeholder will just take it for free. So please, if you are unsure and you're thinking about getting into properties, do the due diligence. Start small, look at some of these videos from people who, hopefully, I know it's hard to tell who's telling the truth, who's not, who's actually got property investment experience, or who's just selling courses on the fact that they bought a house 10 years ago. So be aware and do your due diligence on this. The second thing you should also be doing is make sure that you are then going up a level, buy some property books on Amazon. I've written 2 myself. If you search my name, AZIDGUNGAH, you'll learn the 6 strategies that I took and I followed for 25 years to build up the portfolio. And also I talk about another book called Grow Your Wealth via title splitting, which is my main strategy now over the last 10 years, buying blocks. And I coach people on that specifically, because buying a single house now makes no sense, because the interest rate is so high, the rent's not high enough, and the value of the property is too high. So but definitely, so social media, pick a few people that you think you can trust and they make sense. Second, buy the books, the cheap £8-10 on average. And then the third bit is, if you're then seriously committing money into it, try and find somebody to teach you a little bit of their the journey, because coming to me, you'll get 25 years of shortcuts that I've learned and I've spent money and I still do now. We bought 15 last month, so we're still committing quite a large amount of capital towards property investment. We are bulking our portfolio, and because we understand the demographics, we understand the market changes, we understand how property works in the UK. And so if you are thinking about coming into this, help yourself, get educated. If it's me, have a look at my website, it's on this video. If it's others, make sure you do due diligence. And even for me, ask me, where are these properties? Come down and I'll show you physically where they are, how many we've got, the tenants, the property managers that I have that work for me, the builders that work for me on site all the time. So do your due diligence. It's down to your responsibility, and not to say, oh well, I followed somebody on Instagram and they gave me the wrong advice. Actually, it's this is but it's also very important for you to understand. I'm going to share my information with you. It is not financial advice. It is just what I've done and what works in property in my experience. So be aware, and then obviously in terms of when it comes to the legalities of stuff, about financial broker, legal, I will then put you in touch with the right professionals. So seek advice where you need on the property strategy stuff, but also get the right legal advice from actual professionals that does finance, that does legals, that does brokerage and commercial lending. So hope that helps. So that's that's one of the videos that I'm going to be doing more on, about financial mistakes, errors that landlords tend to make, or financial people who come into property investment tend to make, to help others.